I'm Catherine Mazzone here on behalf of Mojostreaming, and I'm very pleased to announce our guest today, Dr. Pieter Kat. He's a wildlife conservationist. I mean, we know you have a very long resume. Why a wildlife conservationist?
Let me explain that about how I started out, okay? I started out as a marine biologist. And then I graduated to, with a PhD to an evolutionary biologist. And then I traveled, luckily, all over Africa. And I realized more and more and more that we were losing nature. We were losing our beautiful environment. And I'm very lucky because, you can see by my hair that I'm quite old. But I was born at a time when there were lots and lots of wildlife species. And when I grew up in Southeast Asia and Malaysia and places like that, I could get on my bicycle as a young boy. And I could ride and I could see butterflies and rainforests, and that's all gone now. And so what I wanted to do, having seen that, is to dedicate a lot of my life and effort to making sure that my children and my grandchildren might be able to see something like that. They won't, but it'll be something like that. They won't be able to get on their bicycle and drive, through a rainforest 5 minutes from their house, but they should. It is their right to be able to see the wonderful parts of nature that the planet still has.
You explained a little bit about what got you into this. Obviously, you've always had a passion for wildlife, or else it wouldn't have come to fruition like that. What did you do to get there?
As I grew up, and I was very fortunate to grow up in countries that had a huge amount of nature. Malaysia, New Guinea, and then what I decided to do was to explore that better, explore the reason why that nature was there. And so what I did was I kept going on and kept going on. I got a bachelor's degree, and then I got a master's degree, and I got a PhD, 2 masters actually, and a PhD degree, to be able to explore what the foundation of all this nature was. How did it form? How did it evolve? And how can we best preserve it? And so, after all my degrees, I spent 10 years in Kenya, and then went back to the States and spent some time at the Centers for Disease Control, and then spent some time at the University of California Veterinary School, and then went to Botswana. And then, I've always had this attraction to Africa, because that is where you can see nature in its beautiful place. And we need to preserve that, because it is no longer in its beautiful place in many, many countries in the world. And I'm very sad about that.
It sounds like your work was kind of precipitated by this need to preserve and protect. How do you stay optimistic enough to keep going?
Well, my growing up in terms of this sort of conservation of the planet has always been I've always looked at it as, what are you guys doing? Um, for example, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, we had an organization called the World Wildlife Fund. Now, those guys were supposed to, imagine Noah's Ark or something, and much bigger than that. It's a huge warehouse. And the WWF was supposed to be the guardians on the door of that huge warehouse that contained all the biodiversity and all these wonderful species, lions, tigers, elephants, what. But you see, what happened is that just recently they published something called the Living Planet Report, and they said WWF themselves admitted that they had lost 70% of all the populations of wildlife in the world. Now, that's not good. These guys were supposed to be the guardians of the warehouse, the guardians of the ark. But what happened was that, maybe somehow they got confused, maybe somehow they didn't realize what was happening, maybe somehow whatever. But you see, we cannot afford these losses of wildlife anymore. Wildlife and the wild planet are so important to so many things, including our appreciation of nature, our appreciation of ourselves, our mental well-being. Just the other day, I read a report that said that people, love to hear birdsong. And the birdsong, sorry, I'm right. Got a bit, got a bit emotional there. But if we can't wake up in the morning and hear these beautiful birds singing their songs to celebrate the sun coming up, what kind of planet are we living on? What have we sacrificed for all our desire for development and growth and economic this and that and the other thing? If you cannot hear a bird sing in the morning, you have lost something so precious. Right.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Um, you know, when I was working in Botswana, um, I always got really pissed off at these birds because you know the sun would come up and then the francolins would start and then the other birds would start, and I could say, look, it's only 6 a.m. You know, I want to sleep a little bit longer. But the cacophony of that sound was so amazing. And no, I always remember that. You know, it's just a small thing. It's just a small thing. It's like maybe, you know, we don't hear the crickets anymore at night, and we don't hear the owls anymore at night because they're gone. And somehow we're supposed to say, well, that's all acceptable, you know, that's part of our development, that's part of, you know, economics and all that kind of thing. But you know, I'm always saying no, we have lost so much, and our kids don't even realize that because they've never heard that kind of situation with the birds waking up in the morning and making all those sounds and things like that. And it is so sad. It is so sad. And so we need to do something better than we're doing now. We need to completely revise the entire situation where um, we we have these conservation organizations
Mhm.
earning millions and millions and billions and saying, look, you know, we're doing good for our planet. Adopt a polar bear, adopt a this, adopt a that. But that has to be over now because we need something so much more effective because yeah, we can never restore what has already been lost, but we can certainly do better to save what we still have. And this does not need to be a situation where, you know, we have politicians talking about this, that, the other thing, and we know, you know, conservation organizations going yet to another meeting or something like that. You know, we need some real effective action. And I'll tell you a story. Um, we have, as my organization, we have a wonderful, wonderful program in Kenya right now with the Maasai community. Now, these guys, um, the Maasai, are pastoralists. So they have lots of cattle and sheep and goats and all that kind of stuff. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to survive economically for them with a lot of predators that are coming out of the national parks and eating their cattle, like lions, like hyenas, like leopards. And what what we said is right. What we're going to do is we're going to provide these households that are being affected now with all this predation. We're going to put some lights around the periphery of their houses. And those lights have been proven to scare away predators. But then what we said is also what we're going to do is we're going to put lights inside the houses. We're
Hmm.
going to pay for the solar panels. We're going to pay for, all the wires and the bulbs and all that kind of stuff. We're going to put lights inside the houses so the kids can read at night, do their homework. And we've started this program and we've got so many very, very positive results back saying, wow, this is the first time that a child has seen a light bulb in their house. So, this is the way forward, I think. We need to involve these people because that light bulb inside the house is now going to be linked to lion conservation, and is going the people who get these light bulbs are going to see that, okay, what we're going to do is we're not going to poison the lion who comes or whatever. What we do is we have a situation where um, we now see the value of conserving predators because suddenly we've got lights. And the other part of this program is that we have what is called an insurance herd. The people who receive those lights get the benefit of those lights, but they have to pay for it. They have to pay for it with cattle, livestock, and that livestock herd then becomes part of the community.
Hmm.
So anytime anybody in the community suffers a predation attack, there's a livestock member, if I can call it that, in that insurance herd that can be substituted immediately for what they lost. So the more and more and more we do these kinds of innovative programs, this program was invented by the Maasai themselves. They said, okay, we'll pay for the lights, we'll give you an insurance herd. I think right now, with our couple of programs that we have in the Amboseli area in Kenya, LionAid is now the proud owner of something like 106 cows. And all those cattle will be used to replace cattle that are lost to predation, will be used to repair things. If the cattle are sold, those cows will be used to pay for, if they're sold, they can be paid for, used to pay for veterinary um, treatments and things like that. So all of a sudden, you've got this whole situation going on where there's a new idea. And this is what I'm trying to say. This is where the conservation organizations need to get really organized. They need to have new ideas. They need to realize that what they have done for the past 50 years has resulted in what, 70% decline in species populations? No. Redo the whole thing. Might be difficult. It might be difficult for these organizations to say, yeah, we made a mistake, because they never apologize. But we made a mistake, so let's try something here. Let's try something here. Let's integrate more and more with the people who are living with wildlife. Let's see what their concerns are. Let's see whether we can join together in some sort of a program where everybody benefits from wildlife, not just the national parks or the trophy hunters or whoever, right? Or even the tourists. Let's have a situation where wildlife is now seen as something that is so precious that everybody can benefit from it. And let's see whether, these organizations, or what I'm hoping is a new organization, can come together and say, right, we got it all wrong. Let's do something different.
You're certainly not the first person who said we need to rehaul the NGO system. Why this switch?
All right. Let me answer this very, very clearly. Conservation organizations are companies. They derive income, they employ people, they have offices, and they're an income generating group of organizations. So as long as the formula that they had, which meant, adopted this, adopted that, we're doing well, send us money, send us your legacies, send us this and that. As long as that formula worked, there was no desire on their part to change, even though those conservation organizations could clearly see, as WWF said in their report, even though they could clearly see that things were going wrong, the fundraising formula was going right. And that was the big mistake that all those conservation organizations made. Unless you look at, no matter how many funds you're making, no matter how many millions you're paying your CEOs per year, let's have a constant evaluation of your performance. Every company does this, except for the wildlife organizations. They do not evaluate their performance. And even now they're saying, oh, look, we've lost 70% of our populations of wildlife, in however many years. Please donate more.
So something else I heard when you were talking was the emphasis on including the people in
Yes.
these habitats. Do you think that that has been a shift as well?
There have been efforts to include the people in all kinds of sort of programs, but when just 3 months ago I went to Amboseli National Park, okay, in Kenya. Amboseli is one of the jewels in the crown of Kenya's national park system, because you've got a wonderful park, you've got lots of animals in there, and then behind you, you've got Kilimanjaro sitting there, and beautiful pictures, this, that, the other thing. You got elephants, you got buffaloes, you got this, you got that. But it has been shown for years and years and years that Amboseli, as a tiny little park, cannot survive as an isolated entity. What the park relies on is that, yes, during the dry season, the animals come back and they concentrate on where there's water in Amboseli National Park, but then in the wet season they rely on this huge amount of land outside the national park, not fenced. I mean, there's nothing there. You can go from here to there or whatever. Outside the national park, which belongs to the Maasai people. That is their land. Now, when those animals come out, all those wildebeest, the elephants, the zebras, the this, the that, okay, what they're doing is they're now grazing on Maasai land. And also what happens is that in the wet season, all the predators come out of the national park, because now they're following the prey, and then they, eat the Maasai cattle. So what the Maasai are doing is supporting financially these national parks like Amboseli because they've got all the land around them. But they are not getting the right amount of compensation or anything like that from the Kenya government or the Kenya Wildlife Service that runs that national park to be able to live together with wildlife. And that's why I say, it took people like us to go there and say, okay, we're going to put lights in your houses. That should have been done by the Kenya Wildlife Service, 100 years ago, right? They should provide these people with water. We went to a primary school there. There was no water for the kids. Those kids had to walk. Listen to this. Those kids had to walk 2 hours from their home to their school and then 2 hours back. Those kids did not get fed at the school. No school lunch, right? So these are communities who are living together with wildlife that is so important to the Kenya government and the Kenya Wildlife Service and Kenya Tourism, and is bringing in a huge amount of money. But the communities, are getting nothing. There should be a huge amount of effort from the Kenya Wildlife Service, from the Kenya government, to be able to say, look, we share this wildlife. The wildlife belongs to the people. It doesn't belong to the Kenya Wildlife Service or the Kenya government. We should all share the profits that come from this wildlife. And they're not doing it. And so they're, okay, we put some lights in. We improve the quality of life for the communities. We improve because we're working with that school now. We say, look, we need books, we need this, we need that. So therefore, it shouldn't just, yes, we need to get international involvement in these kinds of programs, but it shouldn't be left to us to do this, because we're not getting any profit from this. It's the Kenya government and it's the Kenya Wildlife Service that are getting the profits from their national parks, and they should share that with the communities, because if you don't have the communities on your side, you're not going anywhere.
This is obviously an innovative program, and it sounds like you're trying to be more innovative in your approach. Are these sorts of unique projects sustainable?
Yes, they are 100%, because there have been so many other projects saying that what we're going to do is we're going to protect the pastoralist cattle from attacks by lions, by hyenas, by leopards, but their sustainability depends on a huge amount of continued input, right? So every year there's another request for donations, this, that, the other thing. This program that we have in Kenya was actually designed by the Maasai elders themselves. And they said, right, what we do is you come in, you give us the solar panels and the lights and all that kind of stuff, and then we pay for that. This is not a donation. We pay for that with some livestock. Now, those livestock that they donate are going to be individually branded. And I can't find it's going to be branded LA for LionAid. Okay.
Okay.
And so those cattle are now going to wear that brand. Now, those cattle and those sheep and those goats with that brand are now going to pay for any future predation incident that is going to happen, perhaps in the households or the areas that are not lit up. Because I said to the Maasai community, I said, okay, we can put lights in a couple of places, but what you need to do is you need to protect your entire community. So if we protect these cattle here in this place, you must also involve the other households in your community.
Mhm.
They agreed 100%. They said this is fantastic. So what we're doing now is we're building up our herds, our protected herds, and we're going to use those cattle for any kind of predation incident, but also any kind of desire that the community has, as approved by their elders, to say, right, we need more lights, we need a new solar panel, we need this, we need that, right, sell some of the insurance for it. And that is why it's sustainable. That is the first African program where we have an actual sustainable situation set up by the community themselves. We don't put money in after the solar panels. We're, LionAid is now cattle owners.
Ranchers.
We are ranchers. And we're going to tell the community that, yeah, okay, maybe they have that brand, but they still belong to you. And you guys decide on what you want to do with those cows and how you want to use them to improve your lives.
It seems as though these sorts of programs that partner with local communities do a whole lot better than the ones that exclude them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it was actually it was actually quite amazing when we went to Kenya 2014 or so, and we sat down with these elders and we said, look, what is your solution to these, predation incidents? What is your solution to this whole big lion livestock conflict? And they said, hold on a second. You are the first person that has come here to ask our opinion. Everybody else says, oh, we know what to do. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. But those Maasai elders said, you're the first people that have come here to ask. And so that's why they came up with this beautiful, beautiful, wonderful program that is going to, I think it's going to spread like wildfire, because already the Maasai in that Amboseli area are now getting visitors from Masai Mara and Samburu and, all over Tanzania. And, because they all want to be a part of this, because they see something that is so different and so special that they can all be part of it. And this is the big thing. Those Maasai have bought their solar panels, they have bought their lights, it is theirs. It is not being donated to by everybody, it is theirs. And so they own it. So if somebody comes in and says, oh, my solar panel was stolen, I want a new one. No, right? It is your solar panel. You protect it because you bought it. It is not donated to you. And this is the big difference where, how we have to integrate these communities. And like I said, there we get mails from kids in the schools. We get mails from people living in those areas saying, we're so grateful because we have life. These are things we all take for granted. But when you encounter these highly impoverished communities who suddenly get something like, uh, there's a light, and that light was provided by people who ask us, be careful of our wildlife and to protect lions and things like that, makes a difference.
I think it's got to be really rewarding for you to be able to impact wildlife and humanity.
Well, you see, they have to go together. They have to go together because, you know, there cannot be any wildlife existing in Africa anymore without a real interest and compassion from the local communities. And what has been missing, you know, for years and years and years and years, is that, you know, that compassion for wildlife by the local people has not been apparent. And if it is not apparent, then you get rhino poaching, you get elephant poaching, you get lion poaching, you get, you know, everything goes. And unless we have a real partnership with the communities whose land all this wildlife occurs on, and whose land is integral to the survival of the national parks, then you know, we have lost. But I think, you know, slowly, by talking with people, really talking, not saying this is what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do, really talking with people who are, I mean, these guys have been living with wildlife for thousands of years, right? So they know how they want to manage their wildlife. They want to know how to integrate the wildlife land with the cattle land, with the livestock land. Um, so engage them, really, but not, you know, this halfway. Can I say half-assed?
Yes.
Halfway, you know. Um, programs that have been put in place by, you know, former people who say, right, we got the solution, you know, blah, blah, blah. But we really need to involve them, because without those people, without their land, African wildlife dead.